Essay Writing Tips. How to Write Essays on Different Topics. Basics of Writing. By Mariia, Obydenna. From the author. Dear readers, this book is the result of my dedicated work as a writer, during which I gained experience in writing essays and short prose on various topics. My friends and colleagues ask me, how to write an essay? Where can I find an easy-to-use guide on writing and completing an excellent essay quickly? The idea to write this book and explain the steps in essay writing came to my mind. The book, Essay Writing Tips, How to Write Essays on Different Topics, is a writing guide for novice and experienced writers alike. In this book, I share secrets of working on an essay or a short prose of free composition with writers. The book provides tips and tricks for writing essays on different topics. This book is not just a guide, it's a conversation with those who are learning to express themselves on paper. It invites authors to explore the essay as a form of personal and intellectual freedom, where structure meets spontaneity and clarity meets curiosity. Preface. This book introduces novice writers to the fundamental components of essay writing and helps them organize their thoughts on paper. The careful examination of essays by different writers tends to reveal that some of the literary pieces called essays, for some reason, are texts that lack the main features of the essay form or pieces of writing that are not interesting to read. Some essays fail to convey the information and fail to spark the curiosity of the reader. The question often asked by both casual readers and young writers, what is an essay? How to write an essay? Mastering the basics of essay writing and developing your prose writing skills, you will be able to write essays on different topics and inspire the interest of the audience. This book covers up-to-date materials and new trends in essay and nonfiction writing. Essay writing tips will help authors to compose excellent essays and immerse themselves in the world of writing. The book provides guidance and support to novice writers at every step of the essay writing process, from analysis and research to planning, writing, and editing. You will receive expert guidance and tailored recommendations for each step of essay writing and how to develop your writing skills. An essay does not illuminate everything, but it helps the reader engage with the unfolding of the writer's reasoning. Working on an essay helps authors improve their skills of critical thinking, as well as analyze and synthesize information. This book guides writers in writing the perfect essay and mastering the craft of writing. The book is divided into several parts that cover all steps of writing. You will be able to write amazing literary works and save time on editing. You will take the book, Essay Writing Tips, How to Write Essays on Different Topics, from your shelf and use it every time you write a piece of short prose. Part 1. The Essay, a Genre of Thought and Voice. The essay as a literary form. Historical origins and defining characteristics. The world of literature is diverse. A written text is the most common and popular means of communication between the author and the readers. The essay is one of the unique literary forms focused on factual information. Writing an essay is a creative process. Writing requires the author to collect, analyze, and describe the key characteristics of a certain phenomenon, process, object, personality, worldview of a person, moral principles of society, and socially significant and ethical problems. Effective writing necessitates a conscious engagement with the target audience, ensuring that the information is appropriately selected in terms of complexity, relevance, and communicative clarity for the topic at hand. Each essay is a unique and original text in which the author reflects on a specific issue, phenomenon, or event. The integration of personal experience with readers' expectations enhances the text's accessibility and relevance. In each essay, it is essential that the writer maintain a consistent, reflective understanding of the subject matter.
Briefly on history. The word essay comes from the Latin exageum, passage, pois, and means an attempt, a literary experiment. From the French, essai, which means attempt or endeavor. An essay is an expository writing that conveys factual information and reflects the position of the author on certain issues. Essays inform and educate readers about the topic. The essay originated in Europe in the 16th century, but its history dates back to antiquity. In short works of literature, writers expressed their philosophical views and discussed the civic virtues and spiritual ideals of ancient society. Literary works that reflect some of the features of the essay belong to world-renowned philosophers such as Cicero, 106 BC to 43 BC, Seneca, 4 BC to 65 AD, and Plutarch, about 45 AD to 120 or 125 AD. Short prose of antiquity can be described as a text in which philosophers use a certain model of thinking, namely reflections or reminiscences on a particular topic, and reveal their worldview. The French essayist who introduced the term essay into world literature was the philosopher Michel de Montaigne, 1533 to 1592. He used the word essay in 1572 in the most famous literary work, Essays. Montaigne reflects on the moral principles of the Renaissance and seeks to answer the question that became his life's motto, "What do I know?" Montaigne defines the essay writing process as writing an essay means a free expression of ideas about objects that go beyond the understanding and views of the individual. The majority of his works are texts of simple structure that describe his thoughts, life experiences, and worldview. Another pioneer of the essay form was the English politician and philosopher Francis Bacon, 1561 to 1626. In 1597, he published a collection of essays on ethical and socio-political topics known as Thought Experiments in Moral and Political Philosophy. In this work, Bacon examined contemporary society and the worldviews of his contemporaries. The author integrated new scientific knowledge into his literary works and reflected on a new understanding of science's importance.
In history, the most famous philosophers who wrote essays were Samuel Johnson, 1709 to 1784, Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1803 to 1882, and William Hazlitt, 1778 to 1830, among others. Many renowned writers and philosophers concur that the essay form serves as a vital medium for exploring personal experience while engaging critically with broader environmental and societal concerns. From Montaigne's introspective musings to Baldwin's socio-political critiques, the essay has long been recognized by influential thinkers as a genre uniquely suited to bridging the personal and the universal. Writers and philosophers alike have emphasized its capacity to illuminate individual experience while grappling with pressing issues such as ecological responsibility and cultural transformation. Different essay types became popular in the second half of the 19th century. At this time, the word essay has become a general rather than a specific term for any prose that does not belong to fiction. The most famous essayists who skillfully wrote essays were Bernard Shaw, 1856 to 1950, Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905 to 1980, Albert Camus, 1913 to 1960, John Galsworthy, 1867 to 1933, Anatole France, 1844 to 1924, Romain Rolland, 1866 to 1944, Heinrich Mann, 1871 to 1950, Johannes Becker, 1981 to 1958, André Maurois,
1885 to 1967, and others. From the beginning of the 20th century, essays became the creative laboratory for philosophers and writers to experiment with new literary techniques. Writers such as David Herbert Richard Lawrence, 1885 to 1930, Virginia Woolf, 1882 to 1941, George Orwell, 1903 to 1950, and Thomas S. Eliot, 1888 to 1965, are on the edge of emotional and literary expressive language. Writers and philosophers expand the topics covered by the essay form and incorporate their distinct perspectives. Contemporary essay writers include James Baldwin, 1924 to 1987, Annie Dillard, born 1945, Joan Didion, born 1934, and Paul Theroux, born 1941, and others. The essays of world-renowned writers vividly illustrate the richness and diversity of literary expression, reflecting a wide spectrum of personal, cultural, and philosophical concerns shaped by historical experience and national identity. The prose of modern essayists reflects the philosophical ideals and worldviews of the authors. Most essays are not exhaustive, rather they offer a focused exploration of a theme, inviting reflection rather than delivering comprehensive analysis. In modern literature, essays are among the most interesting yet controversial pieces because of their diverse structures and literary means of expression.
The key characteristics of the essay. Essays are expository, nonfiction prose that explore a topic from a personal point of view, often straddling the boundaries of fiction, journalism, and science. An essay is a short prose of free composition, featuring a blend of literary and journalistic elements. The essay can be defined as follows: short scientific, critical, and other pieces of literature characterized by sophisticated structure. And 4, page 682. The term essay means any short writing prose, a short nonfiction, or a critical research on a specific topic. Some literary critics suggest the following understanding of an essay. Essay is a form that joins the characteristics of fiction or nonfiction, where freely, not necessarily exhaustively, but clearly individually treated a particular event, phenomenon, problem, or topic. N5, page 20. Thus, in the essay, the author expresses personal thoughts and impressions on a particular issue, but does not perform a detailed analysis or interpretation of the topic. The essay can also be explained as a literary form with the following characteristics. Essay is a short writing prose that may have different structures, compositions, and expresses thoughts and impressions on a particular situation or issue by the author, but does not claim to be an in-depth interpretation of the topic. N2, page 249. The essay is inherently subjective, reflecting the author's personal stance on a specific aspect of reality, rather than striving for universal objectivity. As personal expression, an essay is a prose writing in which the author addresses significant philosophical, historical, and literary issues. The essay has free composition. Unlike scholarly articles or journalistic reports, the essay embraces partiality and introspection. It is a space where the author's voice, mood, and worldview shape the narrative, allowing for ambiguity, contradiction, and emotional resonance. In literature, this subjectivity often becomes a lens through which broader cultural or existential themes are refracted. Essays can be grouped into two broad categories: informal and formal. Each of these categories has specific characteristics, including but not limited to compositional features and diverse linguistic and stylistic means. The formal essays are argumentative, analytical, informative, and critical, as well as other types similar to expository writing but with fewer language means. In these essays, the authors use certain linguistic and stylistic means that represent the scientific style, namely popular science such as terms, quotes, and references to primary sources. In this writing, words have direct meaning and should not be too expressive or emotional. The goal of essays is to explain a certain phenomenon and systematize knowledge to readers with due consideration of the author's personal stance and expressive intent. The informal essays include descriptive, narrative, reflective, and other types. The uniqueness of this writing prose is that the authors use emotional words, imagery, and poetic descriptions. To evoke a deep emotional response, the author uses emotionally expressive vocabulary, synonyms, antonyms, homonyms, epithets, comparisons, metaphors, allegories, and hyperbole. The use of a large number of literary means helps the author reveal meaning and describe persons, things, actions, phenomena, and objects. N7, page 52. Today, the free-form structure remains the most prevalent, offering authors greater flexibility to express personal viewpoints and construct nuanced arguments. Each essay has a specific argument, but the work does not provide a detailed analysis or interpretation of the topic. An essay has no plot, unlike other forms of short prose writing forms. In fiction writing, the plot subtly conveys an author's perspective on narration, through which the writer reveals the characters and the content of the work, as well as the lens through which the author examines the events. The main elements of fiction are exposition, connection, actions, culmination, and denouement. In contrast to writing prose, an essay includes factual information, only those facts and arguments that are necessary to support the main idea.
Writing an essay gives authors the opportunity to investigate a specific topic, choose certain information as a standpoint, explain theories and concepts, evaluate arguments and facts, and express views and opinions. To compose an effective essay, the author must understand the essay's structure, purpose, thematic focus, and intended audience. Unlike fictional or imaginative literary genres, the essay is grounded in reality, serving as a reflective and analytical form that prioritizes authenticity, personal insight, and intellectual engagement over invented narratives or fantastic elements. An essay reflects the writer's point of view. Essays are subjective and may include elements such as narrative, critique, scientific argument, fact, memoirs, and reflections. The main characteristics of the essay are the specific topic or issue, the wide range of problems, expression of personal impressions and opinions of the author on a certain stance. The topic or question should not be analyzed in detail. The essay offers a new, subjective perspective on a particular problem. The work may have a philosophical, historical, geographical, literary critical, popular scientific, or fictional background. The work reflects the author's personality, worldview, thoughts, and feelings. From a compositional standpoint, an essay is a text divided into paragraphs, may have headings and subheadings. An essay must be written with the focus on structural elements and logical coherence, ensuring that each component, introduction, body, and conclusion, plays a pivotal role in advancing the main thesis. The choice of essay structure lies with the authors, reflecting their unique vision of reality and the specific demands of the subject matter. There is no single perfect recipe for choosing the essay type. Despite the flexibility of essay writing, most essays follow a standard structure: an introductory section that outlines the topic, a body that develops the argument, and a conclusion that synthesizes insights. Through its subjective lens and expressive texture, the essay not only articulates the author's stance, but also draws the reader into a quiet communion of thought and feeling. Writers often use figurative and emotional language, means of expression, metaphors, comparisons, allegories, epithets, personifications, etc., to influence the reader's imagination. The essay may include associative reasoning and analogical frameworks, empowering writers to reveal their inner realities, utilizing rhetorical devices that embrace paradox.
Modern literature can be broadly categorized into two main genres, fiction and nonfiction. Writing and reading prose across genres enable writers to enhance their language skills and pursue lifelong learning. In literature, the word is a material used for text building. An essay is a genre that dwells at the crossroads of two distinct writing styles, literary, and journalistic. In general, essays are explained as a source of information about life, social phenomena, moral principles, and the world around us. Journalistic writing is a style of mass media that informs readers about significant socio-political ideas and fosters social awareness. The uniqueness of journalistic texts is explained by the effective communication of information as well as the articulation of the author's perspective aimed at persuading the reader of a certain fact. Journalistic style is grounded in real events or phenomena. This genre of literature informs readers about the author's thoughts or reflections on certain facts and objective reality. These are essays, reviews, pamphlets, feuilletons, magazines, literary criticism, and so on. Today, readers use a language specific to a particular social group that may reflect the key features of conversational, formal, business, and scientific styles. For this reason, journalistic texts often have specific characteristics and functions and incorporate elements from other functional styles. The journalistic texts are centered on real people, places, and events, aiming to document and interpret the world. Nonfiction texts are based on factual events and real-world experiences. If something in the plot is fictional, the text is classified as fiction. A journalistic text focuses on truths, facts, and real-life situations. With this in mind, the author should select and organize facts in different ways to fulfill the purpose of the text. Content and credibility are two essential pillars of journalistic writing. The former ensures relevance and informational value, while the latter guarantees trustworthiness and ethical integrity. Some facts may be overlooked, while others may be presented in a specific light, but in general, the author must use scientific facts and arguments to support the thesis. The key characteristics of journalistic writing are informational, inform the reader about the socially significant events and facts; evaluative, provide information and evaluate events, commenting on them to influence the reader; information messages and facts that shape opinions; entertaining, provide information that will entertain and delight the reader. Journalistic texts can be described as reflections of real events and phenomena that have occurred or are occurring in the world. Memoirs, biographies, essays, critiques, and historical works inform the reader about real events. Confidence in nonfiction is higher than in fiction. Fictional facts or events in a literary piece are the hallmarks of fiction, and a few false facts in nonfiction can cause the reader to lose faith. The primary function of journalistic texts is to expand readers' understanding of the environment and the world, offering insights into current events and global trends.
Literary writing. Literary writing is a style of fiction employed in poetic and fiction works in which the author uses figurative language to influence the mind, thoughts, and feelings of readers. Fiction is a constructed world of imagined narratives where invented characters, events, and settings serve as vessels for exploring human experience, emotion, and philosophical inquiry. The author uses figurative and expressive means to convey emotions and feelings and to create a certain world, expressing his attitude toward it. One of the most important differences between journalistic texts and fiction is that the former always reflects real events or characters, whereas fictional elements can be used in works such as novels, short stories, dramas, and fairy tales. The main reason for the popularity of fiction is that the reader gets aesthetic pleasure from reading. Many fiction writers offer plots that describe an escape from reality and fantastic events. Modern fiction prefers plot-driven narratives. This means that writers pay attention to character disclosure, the work's main idea, the dynamics of events, the balance among all components, and more. Unlike fiction, the essay incorporates many off-topic elements, descriptions, the author's digressions, and inserted episodes that do not advance the plot, but enrich the text for the reader. The key characteristics of literary writing are the use of literary means and emotionally expressive vocabulary to convey literary images, the characters' emotional states, and their moods. Expression of the author's point of view. The use of different styles, a combination of slang and colloquial language, journalistic and belles-lettres styles to reveal the creative idea. Expressiveness. Manifestation of the author's individuality. Literary writing conveys the author's ideas through different means of expression, creating a mood and evoking emotions. Literary style is a flexible one. Writers first actively use the language, tools, and techniques of other functional styles, and second, successfully combined literary imagery with explanations of facts, concepts, or phenomena. Thus, the essays that dwell at the crossroads of two styles, fiction and nonfiction, help the reader look more deeply into themselves and understand the world.
A formal essay informs or persuades an audience about a particular issue or phenomenon. Formal essays are written in the third-person singular. Mandatory components of such an essay are the title, introduction, thesis, body, and conclusion. A formal essay should prove the main thesis using additional sources and scientific literature. The authors must cite sources and support their position with empirically validated findings. A formal essay is a thought-provoking writing in which the author reflects on certain ideas and describes events. In formal essays, the information is presented in a scientific light. The other classification reflects the genre's peculiarities, divided into 1. Belles-lettres and journalistic writing, emotionally expressive, review, note, diary, of lyrical nature, letter type. 2. Critical and journalistic writing, subjective, essay criticism, informative essay, argumentative essay. 1, page 6. In English-speaking countries, in terms of content, essays can be classified as follows: philosophical, literary critical, historical, belles-lettres writing and journalistic style, spiritual and religious. Also, essays can be classified by literary form: essay reflection, research, a forecasting essay. Essays have specific compositional features that include but are not limited to the following: a descriptive essay, a narrative essay based on A. Personal characteristics, B. Subjects, C. Places, D. Events, informative essay, definition essay, compare and contrast essay, analytical essay. A. Comparative, compare differences or similarities between ideas, events, personalities. B. Cause and effect essay. Analyze specific situations or events. Determine the causes and results. Evaluation essays. Essay criticism. Reflective essays. 9, page 78.
Many different classifications of essays exist because writers use the essay as an effective literary form to describe life and society. An essay permits freedom of form. Very often, authors have to refer to scientific sources to prove the thesis and confirm their position. One of the main requirements of writing a good essay is to be focused on the problem and keep the reader's attention. Although an essay typically adheres to a structured format, this framework does not constrain the author's ability to articulate personal viewpoints or engage in critical reflection. An essay is a concise, written composition that explores a specific topic or problem within the scope of a single, unified work.
Classical essay, introduction, body, and conclusion.
Many authors prefer the 5-paragraph essay structure if they need to compose information quickly and formally. A 5-paragraph essay is a well-structured form that includes an introduction with a thesis, a main body consisting of 3 paragraphs, each presenting clearly defined arguments supported by evidence and citations, and a conclusion that summarizes the thesis and key points. The basis of the essay is the compositional and logical conceptual structure. A paragraph is the core of the essay, focusing on a single idea. To properly structure the essay, you need to know what a paragraph is. The term paragraph means a block of written text consisting of sentences related to the content. More about the paragraph you'll read in the 3rd part of the book. The most common structure of an essay, which helps the author to structure information, build paragraphs, and express ideas, is as follows. Introduction, thesis, main body, argument 1, facts and evidence, examples, argument 2, facts and evidence, examples, argument 3, facts and evidence, examples, conclusion, summary of facts and main thesis. This structure enables you to maintain the logic while summarizing the evidence and arguments. Before writing, the author can write the plan following this structure. This will make it easier to write the essay's text. Introduction draws attention, provides background information, and helps the reader understand what to expect. The introduction should include a thesis, which is usually the last sentence of the first paragraph. The body, divided into paragraphs, supports the thesis and contains statements, facts, scientific evidence, and examples. Each paragraph presents a single main argument that supports the overall thesis. Usually, the main argument of each paragraph is indicated in the thematic first sentence. Every argument is supported in the paragraph by logical reasoning and evidence. The last sentence of each paragraph should have a logical connection with the next paragraph and reflect the personal opinion of the author. The conclusion summarizes the thesis and main arguments and emphasizes the author's conclusions. A well-structured text helps inexperienced authors better organize their thoughts in writing. Opponents of this form consider the 5-paragraph structure too rigid and prefer a free, informal essay. Once the author has mastered the classical essay form and can properly structure information, it will be easier for him to write more complex works on various topics. For writers, writing classical essays is extremely useful, as this form helps them clearly articulate ideas, structure information, identify cause and effect relationships, describe their experience, and justify conclusions. By mastering the art of writing, the author will be able to develop independent creative thinking and understand how to analyze and synthesize information as they develop more sophisticated written compositions.
A description of the main essay's types. Analytical essay. An analytical essay is a type of writing in which the author presents a specific argument or statement and evaluates the topic using evidence supporting it with interpretation. In an analytical essay, the author presents a certain number of arguments or statements to prove the topic. The author does not just analyze a certain phenomenon, subject, event, or other literary work, but develops a specific, clearly defined thesis and finds evidence to support this thesis and arguments. In analytical essay writing, the author divides the main topic into several subtopics and finds evidence in the scientific literature to support each. The writer has to research the subtopics and arguments. If you are writing an analytical essay about a work of fiction, you might focus on what motivates or sets the work apart from other works, or what makes one character stand out from other characters. Or you may object to why certain actions or actions of the main characters are not sufficiently developed by the author. Depending on the topic and the phenomenon the author describes, it may be necessary to study either primary sources, fiction or film,
or secondary sources, such as books or scientific articles, which can serve as a theoretical basis for analysis. Properly selected evidence supports the main thesis and statement, making the argument more convincing. An analytical essay requires analyzing the problem or discussing particular issues within the context of the whole. The analytical type differs from other types of writing in that its main purpose is to explain a phenomenon. Also, its task is to evaluate a text, process, or idea. This type of writing examines the underlying causes and explores how they affect the environment. The analytical type can be explored through several types of essays, including the following: compare and contrast essay. Analyze the differences or similarities between ideas, events, and personalities. Cause and effect essay, also known as a causal essay. Analyze specific situations or events, determine the causes and results of certain processes. What the author wants to articulate to the reader will determine the type of essay. Each of the following essay processes is classified as an analytical one. The compare and contrast process helps you analyze the similarities or differences between two or more things, events, facts, or processes. Examples of essay topics are Facebook versus Google+ networking opportunities, office work or freelance, reading books or watching movies, which is better, or a strong dictatorship is better than a weak democracy, etc. Analyzing the facts related to the topic will help the author discuss current research or describe the key features of the object. For example, essay topics can include the following: why do people have phobias? Why does stress occur? And others. Cause and effect writing describes the cause of a phenomenon or event. Possible essay topics are: ocean garbage affects ecology and poses a danger to marine life. Gambling addiction, causes and consequences, and others. Contradictions in essays explain two or more perspectives on the same topic. For example, video games for children, pros and cons, hitchhiking, pros and cons, etc. An analytical essay allows the reader to understand a topic by comparing it to other subjects and to focus on the topic rather than simple fact analysis.
Argumentative essay. An argumentative essay is a type of analytical writing in which authors present a clear stance on a chosen topic, provide arguments, support their position, and address counterarguments. The argumentative essay is one of the most popular essay types. These literary works follow a logical structure and arguments to prove that one idea is more significant than another, and they support the thesis with scientific facts. The author tries to convince the reader to adopt a particular stance or accept a particular idea. The argument must be scientifically proven and supported by evidence. The author uses facts, causal relationships, examples, and opinions of experts in a certain field to prove and substantiate the thesis. An argumentative essay presents arguments for both sides of an issue. Opposing sides may be presented with arguments, or one side may be presented as more reasoned, more positive, or provide more detail than the other, and the author thus persuades the readers to accept his point of view. It all depends on the author and the arguments. The main function of this type of essay is to provide convincing evidence to the readers and prove the thesis. When working on an argumentative essay, the following steps are important for writers to follow. Choose a point of view. What side of the issue or problem are you going to write about, and what solution will you propose? Clearly state the purpose of the essay. Analyze your audience. Decide whether your audience agrees with you, is neutral, or disagrees with your opinion. Research the topic. An argumentative essay should include specific and convincing evidence. The author needs information that goes beyond his own knowledge and experience. Decide what evidence you will include and how you will present the facts. Most often, argumentative essays are used to analyze controversial issues. They articulate a problem with internal contradictions. Different ways exist to support or strengthen an argument. A fact is a proven real-life event. This is a phenomenon, event, or personal experience. Don't confuse facts with truths. Truth is an idea, a reflection of objective reality, confirmed by practice, but which cannot be proven. Unlike truth, facts are a powerful means of persuasion and argumentation. The use of statistical data helps the author build a bridge between arguments and a thesis and link examples to arguments. Make sure the statistics are from scientific sources. Always cite your sources. Quotes from the industry experts will support the author's position and arguments. Examples strengthen arguments and make ideas more concrete. Examples reinforce the validity of an argument. The art of argumentation is not an easy task for authors. Argumentative essays articulate a well-defined position on a particular issue and provide several arguments supported by evidence to strengthen the author's position. The function of an argumentative essay is to illustrate that your statement, opinion, theory, hypothesis about some phenomenon or event is correct or more valid than others. An argumentative essay is an essay in which the author uses the method of induction or deduction, draws conclusions based on facts, gives advice and makes suggestions. To support his opinion, the author can use facts, is it true or not? Definition, what does it mean? Relevance to the audience, how important is it? Cause and effect, what is the cause? What are the consequences? Tips from the author, what to do. In an argumentative essay, the author does not need to prove their viewpoint. You need to convince readers that your arguments are valid or more significant than other arguments on a particular issue. The writer must be accurate, clearly state the proposed topic, and present opposing arguments, counter-arguments. Argumentative essays often have the following structure. Essays begin with a statement, its significance and relevance to a certain phenomenon. Essays provide a critical review of the scientific literature on a particular topic. Essays illustrate that your claim is better or more well-researched than others and support the author's point of view.
Argumentative essay topics can be death penalty, confidentiality of information, homeschooling, retirement age, use of animals in scientific research, government interference in family planning, etc. All these topics are good for argumentation and proving the thesis of the argumentative essay itself. The author chooses essay topics that hold personal significance to him. The against position should persuade the reader and compel them to accept its viewpoint that the strength and substance of the supporting arguments significantly outweigh those of the counterarguments, reinforcing the validity of the position. The author must carefully select the arguments to start with and to end with, and build a logical hierarchical structure that reflects the relationship between the whole and its parts, theses, and arguments. Informative essay. An informative essay represents facts on the topic and communicates the author's stance. This essay type is based on comparison and contrast, defines the subject, and also offers pragmatic guidance for addressing the issue at hand. An informative essay introduces the reader to new concepts or phenomena. This type of writing informs the reader about a phenomenon, subject, event, or problem. Typically, essays answer one of 5 questions: who, what, where, when, and why. An informative essay reflects the opinion of the author. It does not convince the reader, but the author tries to adopt and support a particular position. One of the main problems with informative essays is that the topic can be too broad, making it difficult to convey in short writing. Essays can introduce readers to a phenomenon, compare, contrast, or analyze facts. One piece of advice for authors is to start informative essays with brainstorming. Defining and explaining terms is a major part of informative essays. The goal is to provide an explanation for each phenomenon or process being described. Informative essays can be structured in several ways. One way is to present the arguments in a logical manner from the most important to the least important argument.
The author can articulate facts and explain phenomena by placing them in a specific order from most to least important. The author can present the weakest arguments first and conclude with the most important facts. The author can present facts in chronological order, for example, when describing events. The essay can inform the reader about what globalization or Ebola virus is. When working on an informative essay, the author should focus on defining terms and explaining processes. Using arguments and examples, the author actively draws the reader into the process of analysis. Evaluation essay. The purpose of the evaluation essay is to describe and provide an overview of the qualities of a certain subject by establishing clear criteria and using evidence. The key purpose of evaluation writing is to present a general idea about the quality of a certain subject or process. In this essay, the author clearly defines his position and offers evaluative judgments on a given topic using the selected criteria. The author uses arguments and evidence that support the opinion. 3 key elements that make up an evaluation essay are judgments, criteria, and evidence. Judgment or personal opinion of the author. Criteria or reasons that help the author justify his point of view and explain why the author thinks the way he does. Examples that support the author's stance. Before writing, the author must ensure readers are well informed about a particular subject or event. At the beginning of the essay, a clear description of the subject is essential. As soon as the thesis and goal are defined, the author moves to the next step, evaluation. For example, when evaluating a film, book, or artwork, the author should include a brief description of the main events and features of the subject. The background helps the reader view the subject or phenomenon from the author's point of view and understand exactly the subject or process the author is evaluating and analyzing. It can be a description or understanding of an artwork, a business plan, a research paper, an experience, or an advertisement. An evaluative essay evaluates the qualities of the subject. The evaluation purpose is not to express a personal opinion on a certain topic, but rather to be as objective as possible. The writer's task is to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the subject, as well as make a list of the strong and weak qualities of the subject. For example, you can consider a film's compositional features or how an art object affects the audience.
Evaluation essay. The purpose of the evaluation essay is to describe and provide an overview of the qualities of a certain subject by establishing clear criteria and using evidence. The key purpose of evaluation writing is to present a general idea about the quality of a certain subject or process. In this essay, the author clearly defines his position and offers evaluative judgments on a given topic using the selected criteria. The author uses arguments and evidence that support the opinion. 3 key elements that make up an evaluation essay are judgments, criteria, and evidence. Judgment or personal opinion of the author. Criteria or reasons that help the author justify his point of view and explain why the author thinks the way he does. Examples that support the author's stance. Before writing, the author must ensure readers are well informed about a particular subject or event. At the beginning of the essay, a clear description of the subject is essential. As soon as the thesis and goal are defined, the author moves to the next step, evaluation. For example, when evaluating a film, book, or artwork, the author should include a brief description of the main events and features of the subject. The background helps the reader view the subject or phenomenon from the author's point of view and understand exactly the subject or process the author is evaluating and analyzing. It can be a description or understanding of an artwork, a business plan, a research paper, an experience, or an advertisement. An evaluative essay evaluates the qualities of the subject. The evaluation purpose is not to express a personal opinion on a certain topic, but rather to be as objective as possible. The writer's task is to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the subject, as well as make a list of the strong and weak qualities of the subject. For example, you can consider a film's compositional features or how an art object affects the audience. Critical essay. A critical essay is a form of writing that analyzes, interprets, and criticizes a particular problem, subject, or phenomenon. In a critical essay, the author examines a topic or problem through personal experience. The author provides the reader with some information, then compares and contrasts theories, and analyzes events, phenomena, or facts. A critical essay does not have to be overly critical. It implies a balanced analysis and evaluation of the subject. The essay gives the author the opportunity to argue from a certain point of view, sometimes the opposite of the author's own point. The writer presents specific ideas or themes in the text and supports those claims with evidence from primary and secondary sources. Critical essays are common in many fields and can cover a variety of topics, including the critical evaluation of films, novels, poetry, video games, and artworks. Essays should have a thesis and plenty of evidence to support the main arguments and reveal the author's stance. Despite the variety of topics, a critical essay has main sections. The introduction plays a pivotal role. It informs the reader about the author's stance and presents the main idea in a thesis statement. The thesis, the last sentence of the first paragraph, supports evidence and arguments in each point of the main body. Critical essays can be improved by using counterarguments and then providing evidence to refute them. Evidence and specific details strengthen the argumentation. It can involve dialogue, description, the choice of vocabulary, and the compositional structure of the work in cases where the author analyzes a literary text, film, or speech. Critical essays can include evidence from secondary sources, such as scholarly works, that support or strengthen the main argument. The conclusion summarizes the essay's main arguments and emphasizes the most important ones the author reached. Despite the word used in its name, critical, this type of essay is an interpretation of a subject or phenomenon. This is the author's assessment of the subject or phenomenon. An essay is written for a specific audience that has some knowledge of the subject and is familiar with the issues raised by the author. Critical essays can cover important topics of social life, literary works, art trends, etc. The structure of a critical essay can be as follows. Introduction. Grab the reader's attention. Briefly describe what you're going to write about. Formulate a thesis. Main body. For each paragraph, write a separate argument, evidence that supports your opinion. Use evidence, details, facts, and examples. Write a concluding sentence or transition to the next paragraph. Conclusion. Rephrase the main arguments. Summarize the key evidence. Write a final sentence. Writing a critical essay is a creative task that requires the writer to analyze books, movies, articles, reviews, artworks, or television shows. You need to read literature or watch a movie and then evaluate it. Your main goal is not to convince or entertain the reader, but to convey a personal attitude towards an issue, book, or film.
Descriptive essay. A descriptive essay is a type of writing that describes objects, phenomena, or actions to present a vivid image to the reader and to describe in a logical manner the key features, properties, and qualities of a person, object, or phenomenon. The descriptive essay is one of the easiest forms to write compared to other writing types. A written description is a way of illustrating phenomena or events with words. The author can describe a feeling, a sound, or even an emotion. A descriptive essay provides an opportunity to illustrate what the reader can see, feel, or hear. The author is tasked with describing objects, things, places, experiences, people, and situations. A descriptive essay does not need to prove the author's point of view or build a complex system of arguments. The goal is to describe a process or issue and explain it to the reader. Usually, an essay describes an object, person, or event. The author provides details that help the reader to imagine a certain process or object. In some cases, authors give readers the opportunity to use their five senses, touch, taste, smell, hearing, and sight, to understand and imagine the emotions they describe. The key descriptive essay features. Concise style.
the use of details in the description, impact on the five senses of the reader. Descriptive essays require clear and concise language. The author describes details and events with maximum accuracy. Detailed descriptions make things real and engage the reader's imagination. A descriptive essay can just be one paragraph long, or longer if it is necessary. In many cases, a descriptive essay consists of 5 paragraphs, an introduction, a thesis at the end of the introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. When writing a descriptive essay, the author must describe a person, place, or thing in such a way that the readers feel as if they see these objects, that they see these people, that they can hear people or smell the object. Figurative language, similes, and metaphors help the author to influence the reader's imagination. A simile is a literary device used to compare two things with the comparative conjunction as to make the description more vivid. For example, a writer might use the simile, like the wind, instead of writing very fast, replacing speed with something that can be fast. A metaphor is a word or expression that is used figuratively. The author refers to one thing by mentioning another on the basis of their common feature or similarity. Metaphors perform the same function as a comparison, but in metaphors, the conjunction as is not used. For example, the word hand is often used figuratively. Hand of fate, hand of autumn, hands of trees, etc. Metaphors are popular literary devices that writers often use to describe the environment in figurative, emotional terms. For example, Shakespeare, in his play As You Like It, compares the world to a theater. The world is a theater where all men and women are actors. Instead of writing that life resembles a game, the playwright compares the world to a stage on which actors play different roles. Similes and metaphors are literary devices that help authors make essays more emotionally expressive. Linguistic tools help to describe the world, influence the reader's emotions, and facilitate the understanding of the author's intention.
Narrative essay. A narrative essay describes events or interesting cases that made an indelible impression on the author. Memories of a trip, a book, a great movie, a famous person, or a famous writer. A narrative essay tells a story. A narrative essay presents a sequence of events through a subjective lens. Therefore, its structure is not always chronological. The essay describes people and tells about their life experiences. The story is based on the author's personal experiences and beliefs. A narrative essay can focus on personality. One of the possible topics for a narrative essay is a person who causes certain feelings in the author. This can be a friend, relative, or role model with whom the author is not familiar but admires his personal qualities or achievements. Objects. The author can describe important objects in his life or the life of another person, a favorite or disliked object, and its importance for the writer. Place. The author can use an important place as the topic. It can be a city, a room, a favorite place, a forest, a garden, an ideal place, or a destination that the author wants to visit. Events. The author can tell about a significant event and use it as the topic of his essay. This event could have happened recently or many years ago. The author can tell about an incident that influenced him or changed his views. A narrative essay is a report about something important. The author creates a story that shapes the reader's thoughts and feelings. At the heart of the work are events that help the author defend a certain point of view. Chronological sequence. Make a plan in chronological order and describe how the events happened. As you read the essay, the reader will move from one event to another and learn about events and situations in the order they happened. This structure is ideal for works describing events or memories. The short plan will look like this. Paragraph 1. Introduction.
thesis. Paragraph 2, scene 1. Paragraph 3, scene 2. Paragraph 4, scene 3. Paragraph 5, conclusions. Each description can take more than one paragraph if necessary. Consistency by place of action. This plan is divided into paragraphs by the location of action. The course of events in such a work resembles the work of a cinematographer in a film and reports the details of each location. This plan is perfect for describing the scene. A schematic outline can have the following structure. Paragraph 1, introduction. Thesis. Paragraph 2, place 1. Paragraph 3, place 2. Paragraph 4, place 3. Paragraph 5, conclusions. The climactic order of writing. In this case, the points of the plan are arranged in order of importance for the author, from least to most significant. Because of this, the most important or tense moment will be at the end of the essay. This plan can be used for any subject, be it a person, object, place, or event. A schematic outline can have the following structure. Paragraph 1, introduction, thesis. Paragraph 2, the least important details and evidence. Paragraph 3, more important details and evidence. Paragraph 4, key details and evidence. Paragraph 5, conclusions. The narrative essay reflects the author's spiritual and intellectual world and shows the reader how the author understands events. For this type of essay, it is not enough to tell an interesting story. A narrative essay may not conform to the traditional structure of an introduction and conclusion, but it must have a topic revealed by the author through the story. Essay 9, page 92.
Persuasive essay. A persuasive essay is a short prose that convinces the reader that a certain opinion or view of a situation is correct. The purpose of the essay is to convince the reader to agree with the author's opinion. An essay is based on supporting details and should hold the reader's attention. The author supports the main thesis with supporting details and examples. A persuasive essay is very similar to an informative essay. The main difference is that an informative essay offers the reader a balanced view of an issue, considering both sides, while a persuasive essay focuses on one side. The first step to writing a persuasive essay is choosing a topic. The topic should be debatable, meaning it should have more than one point of view. The arguments should reflect the personal beliefs of the author. It is worth avoiding topics on which many works have already been written and which will not interest the reader. These are topics that have been discussed in society and the press for a long time and that do not have significant controversy or relevance to the audience. The thesis is the main argument of the essay, or a statement in which the author formulates the main idea. A thesis is a statement that the author will prove in the body of the essay. Think about your main arguments. Why should your audience change their mind after reading the essay? Will the readers agree with your position? Look at the essay topic and then answer these questions. Try to find and develop at least 3 or 4 strong arguments. They will become the basis for the essay. Also, you have to convince the audience that your point of view is correct and justified. To persuade the audience, it is necessary to understand that there are different types of persuasion. A call to change your mind is most common in the persuasive essay. The author finds an argument that reflects the main point and finds facts that support this point of view. A call to change habits. The author chooses a topic and encourages the audience to take action or motivates them to change something. For example, fasten your seatbelt when driving, wash your hands more often, exercise more, etc. A call to action. The author encourages the audience to take certain actions. For example, come to the elections and vote, help orphans, etc. An offer in the workplace or technical documentation. In this essay, the author presents an idea and convinces the audience of the importance of doing something or continuing further research. For example, let's join forces in the fight against drugs. We must unite in the fight against cancer, etc. A clearly stated position and belief help the author to formulate his opinion correctly. Find facts to support your point of view. You can use the opinions of experts and statistical data to prove your point of view.
Reflective essay. A reflective essay is a type of writing in which the author describes real events and thoughts through a personal perspective on different life situations. Reflective essays are pieces of literature that describe the individual experience of the author. When writing essays, authors focus on a deeper look at themselves and their inner emotions rather than on events. The reader should have a clear idea of who the author is and what values or life experiences have influenced the author's worldview. A reflective essay is a type of writing in which the author describes a life experience. The author writes about experiences, exploring how they have changed in response to certain circumstances. Reflective essays describe an event or experience, then analyze the significance of that experience and justify the conclusions that can be drawn from that experience. While writing a reflective piece, the author analyzes a past event through the lens of the present. The most common reflective essay topics are based on real experience of the author or other people, events, places, reflections on what the author read, saw, or felt. A reflective essay is a type of writing in which the author reflects on a personal experience and addresses the reader. This experience concerns ideas, thoughts, and feelings in a specific situation. The author describes how an experience or subject influenced his worldview. In reflective essays, the author writes in the first-person singular, describing life situations, experiences, and emotions. A reflective essay is more subjective than other types of essays. Reflective essays can draw the connection between current events and the past. A reflective essay is an unusual type of essay because it focuses mainly on the author's personal experiences and feelings. The object of the author's research can be another person, idea, process, or event. The author has to analyze life experience and draw conclusions. Still, the structure of a reflective essay is quite simple: introduction, body, and conclusion. In the introduction, you need to write briefly about the event that you want to share with the reader. There is no need to include any specific details at this step. As the author, you can paint a picture of the event. The author needs to tell about the event, providing detailed information, and describe how he felt after it. You can fill your essay with a lot of details, but make sure that they relate to the chosen topic. The conclusion will summarize the problem and remind the reader why the author chose this particular topic. Also, the author should summarize the experience and his attitude toward a certain situation. The tips and practical recommendations that you will receive in the following sections will provide the necessary tools for working on essays. By carefully studying the basic steps, you will be able to improve your writing skills and easily put into practice simple but useful tips when working on an essay. Writing an essay is not easy, but these tips will help writers feel satisfied and make the process more interesting.